This coin almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million. A single copper penny, dated 1985, struck at the Denver Mint, quietly passed through thousands of hands for decades. Vending machines, gas stations, coffee counters. No one noticed it. No one suspected it. Until one ordinary day, when a collector froze mid-count and realized this was not just pocket change, this was destiny, because the 1985 D. Lincoln penny is not supposed to be special. On paper, it's common. Millions were made. It looks exactly like the pennies you've ignored your entire life. And that is what makes this story so dangerous, and so thrilling. Some of the most valuable coins in American history don't announce themselves. They hide. They wait. And when they're finally discovered, they rewrite lives overnight. Collectors still whisper about the first major discovery. A man sorting rolls late at night noticed something that felt wrong. The coin caught the light differently. Lincoln's portrait looked sharper, but also slightly distorted. The lettering felt off. Not damaged. Not worn. Just wrong in a way only experience can sense. He almost dismissed it. Almost spent it. But something told him to look closer. Under magnification, the penny revealed minting errors so rare they shouldn't have existed together. Subtle doubling where none should be. Unusual die characteristics from a press that was never meant to strike coins this way. Experts believe a small number of 1985 D pennies were struck during a moment of mechanical instability at the Denver Mint, creating error coins that slipped through unnoticed. No alarms. No recalls. Just silent escape into circulation. And here's the chilling part. These pennies were never documented at the time. No official reports. No warnings. Which means no one was looking for them. Collectors were shocked when the first authenticated example crossed the auction block. Bidding started calmly. Then something changed. Phones lit up. Dealers leaned forward. The room understood it was witnessing something historic. Prices jumped in seconds. 50,000. 100,000. 300,000. When the hammer finally fell, the realization hit hard. A coin once worth 1 cent had brushed the edge of $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin because the population is terrifyingly small. Some experts believe fewer than a dozen true high-grade error examples exist. Others think there may be more, hiding in plain sight. In jars. In drawers. In old coffee cans that haven't been opened in years. One woman found a strange 1985 D penny while cleaning out her late father's workshop. It sat taped to a note that simply said, "Looks odd." She almost threw it away. Instead, she had it checked. When the authentication results came back, she reportedly cried. That single coin changed her family's future forever. Because this is not an ancient coin locked in a museum. This is modern America. The 1980s. The era of pocket change and convenience stores. Which means the barrier between ordinary life and extraordinary wealth is thinner than anyone wants to admit. As more examples surfaced, experts realized something terrifying. Many fake claims were flooding the market. Scratches mistaken for errors. Damage passed off as rarity. Thousands of people thought they had the jackpot, and most were wrong. The real coin demands precision. And missing one tiny detail can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Authentic high-value 1985 D pennies often show dramatic die errors that occurred during striking, not after. True doubling is clean, sharp, and consistent, especially in the date and lettering. The mint mark itself can show unusual characteristics tied to the original die, not hand alteration. The weight matters. The surface matters. Even the color tone tells a story. One wrong assumption, and the dream collapses. Collectors were shocked to learn that some of the most valuable examples were never pulled from rolls by professionals, but by everyday people who trusted their instincts. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle simply because he paused for 5 seconds longer than everyone else. The Denver Mint has never released a full explanation. No official confirmation of how many error coins escaped. No upper limit. No closure. Which means the story is still unfolding. Somewhere, right now, another 1985 D penny could be sitting unnoticed, waiting for the right eyes. Collectors in their 30s dream about it. Veterans in their 70s still check every roll. Because this isn't just about money. It's about beating the odds. About proving that history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of your pocket. Start with the date. It must be 1985. Then the mint mark. A clear D beneath the date. No missing mark. No guesswork. Next, examine Lincoln's portrait closely. Look for sharp yet unusual details, especially around the lettering and facial features. Genuine doubling appears as a shadow-like second image, not flat damage. Weigh the coin accurately. Even small deviations matter. And never clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly and permanently. Most importantly, trust nothing until it's authenticated. The difference between excitement and heartbreak is professional verification. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the coin world and changed one life forever, selling for nearly $1 million. A simple Lincoln penny from the year 2000, no mint mark, the kind millions of Americans have held without a second thought. But hidden inside this ordinary copper coin is a secret so powerful that collectors still talk about it in hushed tones. At the turn of the millennium, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. Speed mattered more than perfection. Machines ran day and night. Dies wore down. Errors slipped through. And in that chaos, a few pennies were born different. Quietly. Accidentally. Perfectly wrong. One of those pennies surfaced years later, mixed in with spare change from a grocery store purchase. The man who found it didn't feel lucky. He felt curious. Something about the coin felt off. The color. The strike. The way Lincoln's face seemed sharper in places and strangely soft in others. He almost spent it. Almost forgot it forever. When experts examined the penny, they realized it wasn't just rare. It was extraordinary. A 2000 no mint mark Lincoln penny struck under conditions that should never have happened. A minting error so subtle that 99.9% of people would miss it instantly. And yet this tiny mistake turned pocket change into $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked. Dealers leaned in closer. Auction houses started whispering numbers that didn't seem real. This was not supposed to exist. And yet there it was. The year 2000 was historic. New century. New technology. Massive production runs. And that's where the danger lies. When billions of coins are struck, perfection collapses. Dies crack. Planchets slip. Metal compositions shift. And sometimes, a coin escapes with a flaw so rare that it becomes legend. This penny wasn't valuable just because it was old or shiny. It was valuable because of what went wrong. A specific minting error tied to pressure imbalance during the strike. The kind of mistake that creates microscopic doubling, unusual surface texture, and a weight that doesn't match what it should be. At first, the coin world didn't believe it. Some thought it was fake. Others assumed damage. But under magnification, the truth became undeniable. This penny was struck on an incorrect planchet. The metal composition didn't match standard production. That alone set hearts racing. Then came the strike itself. Parts of the design were razor sharp, while others looked slightly sunken. Lincoln's jacket showed abnormal contours. The rim wasn't uniform. These are not flaws to the trained eye. They are fingerprints of a mistake that should have been caught but never was. When the penny was sent for professional grading, it received authentication that sent shockwaves through the market. Suddenly, a coin that once sat in a drawer was being discussed in the same breath as six-figure rarities. Bidding interest exploded. Private offers poured. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the entire collecting world and climbed toward a value of nearly $1 million. Picture this for a moment. A single Lincoln penny, worn, dull, nothing special at first glance, sitting quietly among thousands of others. No gold shine. No dramatic size. Just copper and time. And yet, this exact kind of penny changed someone's life forever. Today, we're talking about the 1969 D mint mark Lincoln penny, A coin that has whispered secrets for decades, hiding in plain sight while collectors walked right past it.at first. No one paid attention to 1969 pennies. Millions were struck, spent, dropped into coffee jars, glove compartments, and junk drawers across America. Gas stations gave them away. Kids lost them. Adults ignored them. But something went terribly wrong, or incredibly right, during the minting process in Denver that year. And that mistake would later turn ordinary pocket change into a dream worth $1 million. Collectors were stunned when whispers began circulating through the coin world. Dealers leaned closer. Auction houses raised their eyebrows. A handful of pennies from 1969 didn't behave like the rest. Under magnification, something felt off. Letters looked strange. Details didn't line up the way they should. And once the truth began to surface, the coin world would never look at Lincoln cents the same way again. One collector, sorting through rolls late at night, noticed something unsettling. Lincoln's date didn't look normal. The numbers felt heavier, sharper, almost doubled in places that shouldn't be possible. The word liberty looked stronger, bolder, as if struck twice by history itself. At first, he assumed it was nothing. Machine doubling, where, imagination. But that small doubt refused to go away. Under proper magnification, the coin told a different story. This wasn't damage. This wasn't wear. This was a genuine minting anomaly, a dramatic error born inside the presses of the Denver Mint. A mistake that slipped past inspectors, entered circulation, and vanished into America's daily life. And that's when the fear set in, because if one existed, others could too. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, not because they're common, but because they're terrifyingly rare. Most 1969 pennies are worth 1 cent. But a microscopic fraction, so rare that many experts have never seen one in person, have the traits collectors dream about. The kind that can take a penny from a drawer and launch it into auction rooms buzzing with anticipation, sweat, and silence. When one of these rare examples finally surfaced in high-grade condition, the reaction was electric. Phones rang. Offers flew. Experts debated authenticity under harsh lights. When the coin was confirmed, the room went quiet. Everyone knew what they were looking at, not just a penny, but a once-in-a-generation error tied to a year already famous for rarity. Most people think the famous 1969 pennies are only from San Francisco. That belief caused countless collectors to ignore Denver coins completely. Pennies with a D mint mark were tossed aside for decades, dismissed as ordinary. And that mistake may be why these coins remained hidden for so long. The greatest treasures are often found where no one is looking. The rare 1969 penny shows signs of extraordinary doubling in critical design elements. Not sloppy or flat doubling, but bold, sculpted separation. The date appears doubled in a way that jumps out once you know what to look for. The lettering in "I in God We Trust" and "Liberty" carries unusual thickness and clarity. These aren't subtle clues, they're screams trapped inside copper. Collectors were shocked when they realized how close they'd been for years. Coins sat in collections, jars, even circulation unnoticed. People unknowingly spent coins that could have changed their family's future. And that realization sent waves of panic and excitement through the hobby. Condition is everything. A worn example is fascinating. A sharp, high-grade example is life-altering. Pennies that survived decades without heavy wear became legends. When one of these rare 1969 mint-era pennies appeared in stunning condition, estimates exploded. 6 figures. 7 figures. The phrase $1 million wasn't hype anymore. It was realistic. Auction rooms buzzed with tension. Bidders held their breath. Each raise felt like history being rewritten. A penny that once bought nothing now commanded respect, silence, and staggering sums of money. Right now, across America, drawers are filled with coins inherited from parents and grandparents. Old jars from the 1970s. Rolls saved. Just in case. Bank-wrapped pennies that haven't been opened in decades. Inside those piles could be a 1969 penny waiting for the right eyes to notice it.as word spread. Fakes appeared. Altered coins. Too good to be true listings. That's why knowledge became the real treasure. Serious collectors learn to slow down, inspect carefully, and trust only verified diagnostics. Because one wrong assumption could cost everything, or make you walk away from $1 million without knowing it. First, check the date. It must be 1969. Then look for the D mint mark below the date. No mint mark means Philadelphia. An S means San Francisco. Only the D matters here. Next, examine the date closely under magnification. True doubling shows strong separation, not flat shadows. The numbers should look bold, almost stacked. Then move to the lettering. Liberty should not look mushy or flat. It should appear crisp, with thickness that feels intentional, not damaged. In God we trust is another key area. Doubling here adds enormous value. Weak strikes and worn coins can fool beginners. Don't fall for that trap. Weight matters. Composition matters. And authenticity matters most of all. Any coin suspected of being special must be evaluated by a top-tier grading service. This is not optional. This is protection. Many life-changing coins were ignored because someone didn't take that final step. A penny isn't just a penny anymore. It's a question mark. A possibility. A silent test of awareness. Every coin you've ignored could be the one that rewrites your story, and that's the real magic here. Not just money. Not just $1 million. It's the idea that history hides rewards in the smallest places. That ordinary people stumble into extraordinary luck. That something overlooked can become unforgettable. This coin almost ended up in the trash, tossed aside as worthless pocket change, but instead, it shocked the entire coin world and reached nearly $1 million at auction. And the most terrifying part is this. Millions of Americans may have already held one in their hands without ever realizing it. Picture this. It's 1976. America is celebrating its 200th birthday. Fireworks, parades, and pride are everywhere. The U.S. Mint is running nonstop, striking billions of coins to keep up with circulation. Among them are ordinary-looking Lincoln pennies stamped with a small letter beneath the date. Just one letter. A simple D. Denver Mint. Nothing special. Or so everyone thought. For decades, these 1976 D Lincoln pennies passed quietly through hands, cash registers, couch cushions, and junk drawers. No one looked twice. They bought coffee. They paid tolls. They were forgotten. But hidden among them was a microscopic mistake so rare, so overlooked, that when the truth finally surfaced, collectors were stunned into silence. One collector, sorting through rolls of old pennies late at night, noticed something that felt off. The coin looked normal at first glance. Same date. Same Lincoln portrait. Same copper tone. But under magnification, something wasn't right. The details didn't line up the way they should. The weight was wrong. The strike told a different story. This was a rare mint error tied to the chaotic production years of the mid-1970s, when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with metals, dyes, and production shortcuts to meet demand. A small number of 1976 D pennies were struck on the wrong planchet, or with improperly prepared dies. Coins that should never have existed somehow slipped through quality control and entered circulation unnoticed. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Auction houses lined up. What had once been 1 cent suddenly became the centerpiece of bidding wars. A single verified example pushed toward $1 million, rewriting what people thought they knew about modern pennies. Under magnification, the coin shows subtle doubling in critical areas. The metal composition does not match standard 1976 D pennies. The strike pressure reveals an anomaly only visible to trained eyes. These clues are invisible to the casual spender but priceless to serious collectors. When the coin finally hit the public stage, no one expected what happened next. Bidding opened strong. Then stronger. Then unreal. Collectors who had spent decades chasing once-in-a-lifetime finds watched in disbelief as the price climbed. One bid erased years of savings. Another bid rewrote price guides. When the hammer finally fell, the room went silent. Word spread fast. People across the country began digging through jars, drawers, and inherited collections. Grandparents pulled out old rolls saved since the 1970s. Families sat at kitchen tables late into the night, examining pennies under cheap magnifying glasses, hearts racing with every find. Experts believe some of these rare 1970-60 mint mark pennies are still out there. Still hiding. Still unrecognized. Still being spent at face value. The idea that a coin worth $1 million could be sitting unnoticed in everyday change sent shockwaves through the hobby. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Grading services report spikes in submissions. And collectors who once ignored modern pennies now treat them like ticking lottery tickets. Another example surfaced. Different owner. Different state. Same year. Same mint mark. Same error characteristics. While not every example reaches the same astronomical level, high-grade specimens with the right combination of errors have sold for life-changing sums. This was no longer a one-time miracle. This was proof that hidden treasure still exists in plain sight. First, check the date. It must read 1976. Then look directly below the date for the D mint mark. No D means it's not the one. Next comes the hard part. Weight matters. A standard 1970-60 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams if copper. Anything significantly off is a red flag in the best possible way. Examine the edges. Look for unusual color or metal tone. Some rare examples were struck on the wrong planchet, giving them a strange appearance compared to normal pennies. Then inspect Lincoln's portrait and the lettering. Look closely for doubling, distortion, or misalignment that doesn't match wear. They assume damage equals value. Scratches, dents, corrosion, or bending do not make a coin valuable. True mint errors are clean, precise, and consistent. If you think you found something, do not clean it. Cleaning can erase thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in value instantly. Collectors have watched their lives change from one verified coin. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. A penny he almost ignored became the most important object he ever owned. Every year, fewer of these coins remain unaccounted for. Every year, the chances grow smaller. But every year, someone new checks their change and feels that rush of hope. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine standing in your kitchen, emptying loose change from an old jar, when one dull, brown penny catches the light just differently. It looks ordinary. Boring, even. The kind of coin people spend without thinking. But this exact moment has changed lives forever, because that simple Lincoln penny from 1971, with a small S mint mark, has shocked collectors, ignited bidding wars, and rewritten what pocket change can be worth. Back in 1971, America was changing fast. The U.S. Mint was under pressure, producing millions of coins at record speed, and San Francisco was striking proof and special pennies meant to be perfect. But perfection didn't always happen. In the chaos of mass production, tiny mistakes slipped through cracks no one noticed at the time. Coins that were never meant to exist escaped into the world, quietly hiding in circulation for decades. Collectors didn't realize what they were holding. For years, the 1971 S Lincoln penny was dismissed as common, forgettable, barely worth a second glance. And that's what makes this story so dangerous, and so powerful. He had owned the coin for years, tucked away in a small envelope, almost forgotten. One night, while reorganizing his collection, he noticed something strange. The strike looked sharper than normal. The surface didn't behave like a typical copper penny. And the details, they felt wrong. Or maybe right, in a way that shouldn't exist. When experts examined the coin, they realized it wasn't just rare. It was a minting anomaly tied to experimental strikes and proof dies that were never intended for circulation. The coin showed characteristics that matched ultra-rare proof errors and transitional mint processes from San Francisco. Suddenly, a penny worth 1 cent became a legend. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were calling nonstop. Auction houses lined up to verify it. Because when a coin like this surfaces, it doesn't just sell, it explodes. The final hammer price? A figure that pushed toward $1 million, with private offers rumored to climb even higher. And that's when the rumors began spreading across the collecting world. The 1971's Lincoln penny is supposed to be a proof coin, struck with mirror-like fields and razor-sharp details, usually kept safely by collectors. But a handful escaped with unusual finishes, incorrect planchets, or doubled dies so subtle they went unnoticed for decades. Some were struck on the wrong copper alloy. Others showed die varieties so rare that even seasoned experts missed them at first glance. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and now collectors everywhere are searching through drawers, jars, and inherited collections with shaking hands. Another 1971's penny surfaced, this time with dramatic doubling on the date and lettering, paired with proof-like surfaces that should never appear together. When it hit the market, the bidding didn't slow. It escalated. Phones rang off the hook. Dealers whispered. And collectors realized this wasn't a fluke. This was a pattern. Collectors were shocked to learn that many 1971's pennies were never carefully examined because they were assumed to be common proof coins. But under magnification, the story changes. Lincoln's profile may show doubling along the jaw and ear. The word Liberty might appear thicker, almost vibrating. The date may look slightly shadowed, like it was struck twice in the same instant. True high-value examples often show deep mirror fields or unusual satin finishes paired with circulation where that makes no sense. Proof details with circulation damage. Circulation coins with proof characteristics. That contradiction is where the money lives. One auction house reported that demand for rare 1971's varieties surged overnight. Coins that once sold for a few $100s jumped into the tens of thousands. And the finest, most mysterious examples? They entered a realm most collectors never imagined, the realm of $1 million valuations. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin now, not because it's flashy, but because it's invisible to the untrained eye. It doesn't scream wealth. It whispers it. They see a brown penny. They see 1971. They see a tiny S and move on. That's why these coins still exist in the wild. That's why new discoveries keep happening. And that's why this story isn't over yet. A collector reportedly found a 1971's penny in an inherited box of old proofs, mixed with common coins. It had been handled, lightly circulated, almost spent. When graded, it revealed an ultra-rare combination of proof dies and experimental strike features. The estimated value? Deep into six figures, with experts openly debating whether it could eventually cross the $1 million mark. Start with the date. It must be 1971. Then look for the S mint mark below the date, indicating San Francisco. Next, examine the surface under strong light. Look for mirror-like reflections or an unusually smooth or satin finish. Check Lincoln's face closely for doubling around the jaw, ear, and lettering. Look at the date for thickness or shadowing. Weigh the coin if possible. Even a slight deviation can signal something extraordinary. This coin almost ended up in the trash, mixed in with ordinary pocket change, overlooked for decades. But when the truth was finally revealed, it shocked the entire coin world and sold for nearly $1 million. What you're about to hear is the unbelievable story of the 1961 D mint mark Lincoln penny, a small brown coin that quietly became one of the most talked about treasures in American numismatics. Imagine this for a moment. You empty your pockets at the end of a long day. A few nickels, some dimes, and a handful of pennies land on the table. Nothing special. Or so you think. Hidden among them could be a 1961 D Lincoln penny that collectors would fight over, dealers would whisper about, and auction houses would proudly showcase. Because this coin doesn't just represent 1 cent, it represents the dream of discovering $1 million hiding in plain sight. The year 1961 was supposed to be ordinary. The U.S. Mint was striking millions of Lincoln pennies in Denver, churning them out for everyday use. No one expected history to sneak through the mint presses. But behind the scenes, something wasn't quite right. Small changes in die preparation, pressure inconsistencies, and subtle metal flow errors created a handful of pennies that were anything but normal. And almost all of them vanished into circulation without anyone noticing. Collectors were shocked years later when rumors began to surface. A few 1961 D pennies looked different. sharper in places where they shouldn't be, softer in others. Some showed dramatic doubling that wasn't obvious at first glance. Others revealed die cracks and unusual surface textures that hinted at something far rarer than a standard issue coin. But the real shock came when one of these pennies appeared at a private appraisal. The owner didn't think much of it. It had been sitting in a drawer for years, mixed with spare change. The coin had traveled through countless hands, bought coffee, paid tolls, and nearly disappeared forever. But when an expert tilted it under proper lighting, everything changed. The room went quiet. Because what they saw next stunned the entire coin world. The doubling on the lettering wasn't machine damage. It was genuine die doubling, bold, unmistakable, and incredibly rare for this issue. The mint mark itself showed abnormal characteristics, suggesting a hand-punched anomaly that shouldn't exist in a coin struck in such high numbers. Even more unbelievable, the coin's condition was nearly flawless, preserved by pure chance. A perfect storm of rarity, error, and condition had come together in a way collectors dream about but almost never experience. Word spread fast. Dealers started calling. Experts demanded second opinions. When the coin finally went to auction, anticipation exploded. This wasn't just another era penny. This was a once-in-a-generation discovery. Bidding climbed higher and higher, leaving seasoned collectors stunned. When the hammer finally fell, the final price made headlines, a value approaching $1 million for a coin that once rattled around in someone's pocket. But that wasn't the end of the story. Because once collectors realized what was possible, they started searching. Rolls were cracked open. Old jars were dumped out. People who had ignored pennies their entire lives suddenly looked at them with new eyes. And that's when more whispers began to circulate. More 1961D pennies. More strange characteristics. More near misses that had been spent, lost, or damaged before anyone noticed. One collector recalled pulling a similar penny from a bank roll, only to spend it on gas before realizing what he'd done. Another claimed his father had used one to scrape paint decades earlier. Stories like these haunt the hobby, reminders of how close people come to life-changing discoveries without even knowing it. Because this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The emotional pull of this coin is undeniable. It represents hope. The idea that history can hide in ordinary places. That a simple habit of checking your change could turn into a miracle. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on high-grade examples, and auction houses quietly keep watch for the next one to surface. Every time a 1961D penny appears, hearts race. Could this be the one? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world even more. Advanced imaging revealed that some of these pennies show evidence of early die state errors that disappeared almost immediately after production began. That means only a microscopic number could exist. Once the dies were corrected, the magic was gone forever. What remained were just a few survivors, silent witnesses to a mistake that would never happen again. So how do you know if you're holding one of these legends? First, look at the date, 1961, and make sure the D mint mark is present beneath Lincoln's portrait. Then slow down. Study the lettering. Look closely at Liberty and In God We Trust. True doubling will appear raised and rounded, not flat or shelf-like. Check the mint mark carefully for odd shape or placement. Examine the surface for natural luster and original color. Harsh cleaning can destroy value instantly. Condition matters more than most people realize. A circulated example with damage is interesting, but a pristine coin is where values explode. Avoid polishing. Avoid scraping. Avoid assumptions. Many people destroy potential $1 million by trying to clean a coin that should never be touched. If something feels different about the penny, trust that instinct and get it professionally evaluated. Because history has already proven this once, and it can happen again. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. A forgotten penny rewrote someone's future. And right now, somewhere in America, another 1961D Lincoln penny is waiting, in a drawer, a jar, a wallet, or a roll from the bank, hoping someone finally notices its secret.